this guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Questions orales. The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
After 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, their Arrive scam app that was supposed to cost $80,000 cost Canadians $60 million. And just like this, NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the corruption. GC Strategies, the two-person team who was working out of their basement, got paid $20 million and did no IT work, but they did take senior Liberal officials out for whiskey tastings and fine dinners. Not worth the cost and not worth the corruption. So will this NDP Liberal Prime Minister join common sense Conservatives as we call for the RCMP to expand the investigation into this Liberal scandal?
L'honorable ministre des Services publics et de l'approvisionnement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Very pleased to answer this question, which we have heard before and to which we have provided appropriate answers already. Pleased to remind everyone that the Auditor General had not only the job, but the very important job of tabling a report on Monday, which we are looked at and obviously already troubled about the findings that there are in that report. And we have taken into account all the recommendations that are in the report, and many of them have been put into place already for some time.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Speaker, the minister says the auditor had an important job, but that minister and all of these Liberals voted against the auditor conducting the audit. It was because of the leader of the opposition moving a motion in November of 2022 that we had that Auditor General investigation. And just like that was the right thing to do then, calling in the RCMP is the right thing to do now. This is an $80,000 app that ballooned to $60 million. We have a two-person firm working out of their basement being paid $20 million and wining and dining senior Liberal officials. Will these Liberals end the cover-up and join Conservatives in calling for an expanded RCMP investigation?
L'honorable ministre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And the member is completely right in pointing to the important work of the Auditor General. She did work very hard over the last few months, and that's what we expected of her and her office. She tabled an important report on Monday. As she has said repeatedly, she's also completely willing and able to work with all other partners and institutions across the government, including with the RCMP, with which she is already in touch.
The honourable for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, of course the Auditor General is willing and able to do her work, but the problem is this government refuses to give her the documents that she needs to fully account for the $60 million that was spent on this boondoggle. These Liberals have in the past used the executive to shield themselves from investigation by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police like they did in the SNC-Lavalin scandal. So this time Canadians want to know who got rich, other than, of course, these two guys working out of their basement who took Liberal bosses out for fine dinners and whiskey tastings. Will these Liberals join our calls to call in the RCMP and investigate this scandal?
L'honorable ministre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and we are very pleased, obviously, to hear the member clearly state that he has full confidence in the ability of the Auditor General to keep doing her job, including supporting the RCMP when that is demanded by the RCMP.
Oxford Dictionary defines a fool as a person who acts unwisely or imprudently. It is ironic that this Prime Minister chose April Fool's Day to increase his carbon tax by a whopping 23%, increasing the misery that many Canadian families face. This tax is not a joke, Madam Speaker. After 8 years of this Prime Minister, and now his plan to quadruple the carbon tax, he's just not worth the cost. Will this NDP Liberal government cancel their April foolish carbon tax increase?
Honourable Ministre.
Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, unlike the Conservatives who deny that climate change exists and who want to take money away from Canadians, what we are doing with the rebate is putting money back in their pockets. That's $1,100 to Ontario families, $1,800 to Alberta families, $1,200 for Manitoba families, and the list goes on, Mr. Speaker. And I'd just like to ask the opposition, does it make common sense to deny climate change and to cut benefits for Canadian families, including the carbon rebate?
Hear, hear.
Before I go to the next question, I just want to remind the member that he's not to ask something indirectly, say something indirectly. Yes, I mean, the previous question was bordered on indirectly what he could say, can't say directly, so I just want to caution him on that. The honour member for Calgary Confederation.
That's just bloody foolish, Madam Speaker. She just doesn't understand.
Okay. Okay, as long perfect. Okay, on the minister's response. Okay, the honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
On the minister's response, that was just bloody foolish, Madam Speaker. She doesn't understand that if you tax the farmer that grows the food and you tax the trucker who ships the food, then you tax the people who buy the food. Already, a typical family of four will have to pay $700 more in groceries in 2024 compared to last year. And the carbon tax makes up a quarter of their home heating bills. This NDP Liberal government isn't fooling anyone anymore with their April Fool's Day tax hike. Can't we all agree that now is not the time for higher taxes? Axe the bloody tax.
Yeah.
The Honourable Minister for Climate Change.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I would like to remind...
Order. I'm sure that the honourable members want to hear the answer. The Honourable Minister.
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, I would like to remind the colleague opposite that in the Ag Committee last week, one of Canada's foremost expert on food policy, Sylvain Charlebois from Dalhousie University, said, and I quote, Madam Speaker, we don't see the evidence of that, talking about the impact of carbon pricing on food in Canada. And actually, they invited him to speak at the Ag Committees, Madam Speaker, so I think we have it here. The Bank of Canada has said that pricing pollution is not having a material impact on inflation in Canada. It's less than 0.5%. We know that...
The honourable member...